Hello everyone, welcome to IKEA Reviews and welcome to the tier ranking video for all the Monsterverse movies plus a Monarch show. Since Godzilla vs Kong has just come out, let's rank the movies. Okay, so if you are new to the channel, you do like these types of videos, we've done tons of these: MCU, DCU, TMNT, Mission Impossible. We've just recently done the Ghostbusters tier ranking video, so you can check that out on the channel. So if you like that type of stuff, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. I've done retrospective reviews for all these movies in the Monsterverse, including the Monarch show, which we are going to be included in this, so you can check those out on the channel. There is a playlist as well. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below in terms of your thoughts about the Godzilla vs Kong movie and how you would rank them. If you agree with my list, if you disagree, let me know down in the comment section below. But we'll get started with showing you the screen right here. Okay, so we've got 4 categories here with 6 movies or 6 projects in the Monsterverse. So you've got the weakest of the franchise, just okay but not that memorable, has that rewatchability factor, and king of the Monsterverse. So again, let me know your ranking, where you would rank these in the comment section down below. But like I mentioned, we're doing all 5 movies plus a Monarch TV show. We'll start off with chronological order, going off of Godzilla 2014. With this movie, I loved what they were setting up with this movie, especially with the main character, the human character with Bryan Cranston. He was the main focus in the first part of the movie up until they killed him off. Spoilers alert, by the way, this is going to be all spoilers in case you haven't seen any of these movies here, but Bryan Cranston's character gets killed off. Then you're really focusing on the human characters that you're not really that engaged with. My issue with this movie as well is that they're teasing Godzilla throughout the most of the movie, even though the title is called Godzilla. So like, you got shots of his feet, you got shots of his eyes, you got shots of his spine, until you get to the final third act is when you finally get to see Godzilla fighting Muto. So this one really was frustrating to watch. I remember really enjoying it when it first came out, but then just having that rewatchability factor, I don't think it's there because the human characters, and that's the main issue with this Monsterverse, with this timeline, is the human characters you're not really invested with. And after Godzilla -1 coming out, with those characters you're so invested with and care so much about those characters, this one you don't get that whatsoever, especially killing off the main character that you really do care about. So when it comes to the first movie, when it comes to Godzilla 2014, this one is gonna have to go as the weakest of the franchise, unfortunately. It for me is the bottom of the list because of the main factors, having Godzilla being teased throughout the movie, not really seeing the big Titan battle until the very end, even though you do get sprinkles of it, with especially with Muto as the main focus. It just wasn't enough for me to be fully engaged with the movie. So yeah, it's going as the weakest of the franchise. So coming up next is a sequel to Godzilla. You've got Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now with this one, again, it's the same issue when it comes to like the human characters you're really not that invested in. You get introduction to the new characters of like Millie Bobby Brown, her mom and dad, and then you've got like the Monarch also being exposed. So like the effects of after what happened with Godzilla the first movie. But again, most of the human characters are spent just sitting down, giving you exposition, giving you lore dumping, just basically telling you what you're seeing and treating you as if you're not that intelligent when it comes to like seeing what's happening, especially when it comes to like King Ghidorah. Like you see the backstory and like the history of how he got his name, and so you know who the Titan is when they first come out of the ice and all, and having that battle with Godzilla. But they don't call him King Ghidorah. You have to find, the humans have to research and then find out his actual name. So it's just a little bit frustrating on that side. However, this one does elevate it a little bit with the battles of the Titans. Like Godzilla is now the front and center. The fight sequence you get with Mothra and Godzilla, even Rogan and Ghidorah, those battle sequences are absolutely amazing to watch. Granted, there's some color issues when it comes to how it looks on screen. Sometimes you don't get to really see visually it looking great, but overall the movie itself, when it comes to like the Titans and the focus on the fight sequence, that was really enjoyable for me, and that I really do enjoy it more after rewatching it, because I remember watching it when it came out and really wasn't a fan of it, and I haven't checked it out ever since now, so what, 5 years later, and I enjoyed it more watching it the second time than I watched it the first time, only because of the battle sequences that you get with King Ghidorah versus Godzilla. Godzilla having that one little great sequence with Serizawa. I love that sequence when Serizawa sacrifices himself in like the bottom of the ocean, but then you've got Godzilla powering up, just having that lava energy inside him. So again, a really entertaining battle sequence, but the human characters really like slowing the movie down. So when it comes to Godzilla King of the Monsters, this one is going to go as just okay, not that memorable because of other movies that do come out. So with this one, you do get some great action sequences, But again, like with the color grading, with other battle sequences that you have in the Monsterverse, this one really doesn't hold its own as much as it would with the other ones. Okay, so the next one on the list here we've got is Kong Skull Island. I really enjoyed this one watching it for the first time, and then once again rewatching it in time for the Godzilla x Kong movie. This was such a blast. The issue you have with the Godzilla movies is human characters, but with this one, I genuinely enjoyed the human characters. Like, you had a star-studded cast with Brie Larson, Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson. You had John C. Reilly in there, John Goodman in there, among so many others. So it was a really star-studded cast, and the human characters, for me personally, I really enjoyed that because you get that interaction with Kong. Kong, as the Titan in the movie, gets an amazing presence there. You get him fighting these skull crawlers, and the fight sequences, visually it looks absolutely stunning, as it does with the movies when Kong is featured in it. What they do with Kong and how he's this dominant species taking over Skull Island. You even have like the local villagers looking up to Kong as like the king of Skull Island, and the way Samuel L. Jackson turns into this villain going after revenge for Kong, I just thought was so intriguing, and just a great dynamic between Samuel L. Jackson and Kong. Even there's some amazing shots when you've got all these people running away with fire in the background, and you've just got Samuel L. Jackson standing there just looking up at Kong. It's just got some amazing shots, visual shots in the movie. And with like the action sequences when you've got like the human characters helping Kong taking on the helicopters, taking on the humans in the very first act, to then in the third act taking on the skull crawler. So there was a lot of fun to be had with Kong Skull Island. Again, watching it the first time, had a fun time, and then watching it this one, really a blast. And also with John Goodman's character, like, you do get invested more in it after watching the Monarch show. Like, the Monarch show really put him in a great light. With this movie, before the Monarch show, you were interested in his character, but then obviously he gets killed off. But when you're learning about his backstory and how he got into Monarch and why he's in Skull Island, I just absolutely loved that. So yeah, when it comes to this movie, Kong Skull Island, this one definitely has that rewatchability factor. It's one of the better movies in the Monsterverse. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But coming up next, we've got the Monarch TV show. This one, I was not expecting to enjoy it, but I honestly had a great time with it. You get two different time periods with Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell as like this playing the same character in two different time periods. Now granted, the past characters are more intriguing than the present day characters. With the present day characters, you do get a bit of like annoying personalities with these characters and like their decision makings and the way they're just interacting and some of their dialogue. But you do get an interesting story point with it, and you get also, like I mentioned, some interesting elements that plays a part in future movies, like the Apex and how that got introduced, John Goodman's character as Bill Rand, how he got into the fold with Monarch. But of course you do get quite a bit of Titans in there, so you see different Titans in there. Of course you get Godzilla and what they do with the past characters and how they're building and developing Monarch and how it was created. So there really was some interesting moments in the series that developed really well. Some really interesting episodes, especially towards like the latter half when they're getting into Hollow Earth and exploring that territory. There was some really great sequences and some shots of Godzilla as well that looked absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, Monarch was a surprise, an enjoyable surprise that is, but definitely is one to check out if you want to learn more about this Monarch organization. If you want to have more interesting human characters, Monarch is the one to go for. So yeah, when it comes to the Monarch TV series, this one once again has got that rewatchability factor because of the interesting story that you go for, learning about these characters, learning about Monarch. Okay, now for the next one we've got is Godzilla vs Kong, the first team up movie, directed by Adam Wingard, coming out during the COVID era, but this was such a blast. All they were advertising was Godzilla vs Kong, that fight sequence, and it delivered. Like, it delivered beyond my expectation. You get multiple different fight sequences when they're in the boat and you've just got like them punching each other, knocking each other out. You've got Kong jumping off a ship with the atomic breath sequence. You have them beating the crap out of each other in Hong Kong, only to then team up with Mechagodzilla. So there was just everything I wanted in a Titan movie. Again, similar when it comes to issues with the human characters, they sort of slow the movie down. You do get a really interesting sequence, especially that scene when you find out that Kong has been doing sign language with the little girl. That was a really nice touch. But other than that, when it comes to like the human characters, like Brian Tyree Henry's character, as much as I love him as an actor, Millie Bobby Brown, and the other human characters, they slow the movie down quite a bit because all you want is Kong versus Godzilla. But once you do see Kong versus Godzilla, it just delivers. Not too over the top. Like, obviously you've got two Titans battling on Earth, but it's not way too cartoonish as other movies, which we'll be talking about in just a second. So yeah, Godzilla vs Kong, this one definitely delivered with what I was expecting and more. So this is going as the king of the Monsterverse. I'm going to say this now, my favourite of the Monsterverse movies here. Okay, now the full final one we've got is the Godzilla X Kong, the one that just came out with Scar King, Godzilla and Kong. Granted, this is more of like a Kong movie versus like Godzilla and Kong. Godzilla really was taken in the back seat. But as I mentioned it in my review, there is a lot of fun to be had, especially when you're focusing on Kong. He really shines in this movie, focusing on his brutality, his intelligence, his sort of like more touching nature, especially with how he's able to like look after Zuko. But once you get to like the fight sequences, obviously it turns into like a Power Rangers Megazord battle. It's so over the top. You've got Titans suplexing one another, going for punch after punch. Godzilla just not giving a crap over any humans, destroying national landmarks left, right and center. The villain itself, not that strong, not that memorable. And the human characters, while they weren't as annoying as they could have been, they do slow the movie down, especially towards like the third act when they're focusing on Gia and like the tribe people, just really slowing the movie down, because it just feels like they're trying to give you that backstory of like Godzilla and Scar King and that kind of stuff. There was just a bit of things that were just very easy, like for example getting the gauntlet, which took about maybe like 30 seconds for them to get the gauntlet, even though you're on Hollow Earth. Gia bringing Mothra back, which as much as I love to see Mothra, it was just very convenient for her to be able to be the chosen one. So there's definitely a lot of flaws with this movie and some weak elements, but honestly the action sequence, going in there just to turn off your brain and see Titans fight, is what I was expecting and is what I got. I know a lot of people weren't a fan of this movie and I can definitely understand why, but I really had a fun time with the Titans, with the fight sequences, with Kong being the core focus. So I loved what they did with Kong in this movie, and I'm really hoping that we get to explore more in the next movies, even though there's no post-credit scenes or end credit scenes. So I'm definitely curious to see what they're going to do next, but it's definitely an enjoyable movie, definitely flawed but enjoyable. So when it comes to Godzilla X Kong, it's definitely got that rewatchability factor, but for me I will probably put it as just above Monarch because of the Titans there, but not as great as Skull Island or the first Godzilla vs Kong movie. So this wraps up the list here. So you've got Godzilla vs Kong as my number one, then Kong Skull Island, Godzilla X Kong, Monarch TV show, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then the weakest one with Godzilla 2014. There's definitely a lot of fun to be had with this Monsterverse. You turn off your brain, you will just watch two titans beating each other up, having different titans be involved as well. It's just a lot of fun to be had. I do hope that in the next movies, like whether it's a Godzilla and Kong movie or whether it's a Kong movie or a Godzilla movie, they do tone it back a bit when it comes to like the cartoonish scenes, but it's still a lot of enjoyment here. So that about wraps it up for this tier ranking video here. Again, let me know how you would rank them in the comment section down below. Would you disagree? Would you agree? Let me know down below. But thank you all so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.